In this section, we want to start testing claims about averages, which again, for the context of this course, means we want to either test a claim about a mean or a median, whichever one is appropriate. So keep in mind, we've talked about this before, but the sample mean is an unbiased estimator for the population mean. So essentially stating that we can use our sample mean to draw inferences or test claims about our population mean. Whenever we test claims about means, there are two different cases to consider. And that still says estimating, that should say test. So there are two cases to consider whenever we test means. The first case is when the population standard deviation is known. So we have that value or are provided with that value. The second case is when the population standard deviation is unknown. So we talked about these two different cases with confidence intervals for means. And if you recall, we talked about the idea that case one is not very practical for real-world applications. When we talk about real-world applications, there are very rarely any parameters or population measurements that we know. So this first case, we're just going to throw out, and we'll focus on case two. So cases where the population standard deviation is unknown. When we test a claim about means, our null hypothesis will always be something like H naught is the statement that mu is equal to 37, or whatever number that is. But it's always going to be a statement of exact equality. And the alternative hypothesis can take on one of three forms. So if our null is that mu is equal to 37, the alternative is a statement that it's somehow different from 37, so that could be greater than 37. HA, the alternative hypothesis, could be a statement that mu is less than 37. Or it could be a statement that the mean is simply different than 37. Larger, smaller, doesn't matter, just somehow different, or not equal to. When we talk about testing medians, recall that similarly with sample means and population means, the sample median is an unbiased estimator for the population mean, or for, the population median. So meaning we can base estimates off that, or we can test claims based off a sample median. When we test a claim about means, about medians, then our null hypothesis will always be something of the form H0 or H0, where the letter M, our representation for population median, is equal to, say, 15 or some other number. The alternative hypothesis then will take on any of those three forms for a strict inequality. So we could have the median is greater than 15, we could have the median is less than 15, or we could have the population median simply being not equal to 15. So the null hypothesis is, again, an exact equality. The alternative will be one of these three versions of a strict inequality. But what we want to keep in mind is the idea that the median is the less desirable measure of center. The reason being, again, because it doesn't take all of our data values into account. It only bases our result off of one number or the middle two numbers. So the mean is our more desirable measure of center. So whenever possible, we want to test a claim about the mean. But if we can't, then we'll turn to the median as our alternative measure of center.